and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Drew Valonis, your worship associate for this morning, and it's the first time I've done this, so bear with me. And our service today will be led by Dorothy Hoskins. Thank you to Scott Wright for providing music for us this summer. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We plan to continue with hybrid worship services so you can join us each week here in person on Zoom or later on YouTube. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway, and whether it's your first visit or your 1,000th, we are glad that you came. And I remember the first time I heard those words. To help us connect better with our friends watching from home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera. At the end of the service, we will invite our friends on Zoom to turn on their cameras and return the wave. I have some announcements to share with you today. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please fill out the card on or near your chair. We invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket after Scott rings the chimes and begins to play. You can also come forward to drop a pebble in the water if you have a joy or sorrow that you'd prefer not to share. Now for the announcements, there will be a Stop the Cuts rally tomorrow, September 1st at Main Street and Eastern Boulevard, 332 and 5 and 20 in September in Canandaigua from 10 a.m. to noon. Bring your signs and your voices. As we start the new school year, we've got a bit of homework for you over the next 2 weeks. Next Sunday, September 7, we will be including a backpack blessing during the service. Please bring a bag to church that will accompany you on whatever adventures you plan to take on this fall. The following week, Sunday, September 14, will be our annual ingathering and water communion service. Please bring with you a small container of water, either directly from or that symbolizes a source of water that is significant to you. Save the date for Sunday, September 28 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for this year's Social and Environmental Justice Kickoff. Please read Social Change Now, a guide for reflection and connection by Deepa Liar. Copies are available from the UUA bookstore in spirit. And I have my own announcement next. Some of the pumpkins that we've been growing out there this summer are ready for harvest. And particularly if you're one of the young people who helped to plant it, I welcome you to take one. And please wait for me to get out there because I got the clippers. Are there any other announcements for the good of the community?
Hi, we started a little bit late today, so we might run a little late also. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that I will be trying to organize some immigrant response effort in this area. If you're interested in that, I will be putting out some information about that, but we want to coordinate with the social justice group as well. So just keep an eye out for immigration-related information that we'll be trying to put out through the social justice team.
I'll come to this one because it's my height. In addition to Drew mentioning the pumpkins, there's also a bunch of tomatoes that are ready, so check for that. And the other announcement is thank you for whoever was involved in helping everything be clean and tidy and ready to go for Sunday this morning. But on September 14th, that'll be our kind of in-gathering water communion service and potluck, and it would be really nice to have the church freshened up, ready to go for the new church year. So next week after the service, September 7th, if there is a corner that you would be able to stay a little bit and help tidy up, or a chore that you would be able to take on, we'll be trying to get everything fresh and ready for our new minister and the new year.
As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship. Now is the time to bring forward any joys or sorrows, or to come up and drop a pebble. We have an experienced cellist lighter helper. Benson has kindly volunteered to help us out, and we appreciate that volunteer effort. I invite you to join with me in our chalice lighting words as the flame is lit. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our crest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dorothy Hoskins, a member here since 2000. I'm here today not to offer spiritual guidance because I have none to offer. As a humanist, I take my moral imperative from the concept that we should help and not harm one another in whatever ways we can. Today, I have come to offer you a view into the world of immigrant detention in partnership with our Designated Offerings current organization, Justice for Migrant Families. We have had a connection with this organization since the first Trump administration. Aaron Krupp, our guest today, will provide some insight into current conditions and the impacts that the ICE raids are having in the community. I invite you all to ponder, who is welcome at your table of concern? What are your priorities for the people that you will associate with and literally sit with? Are all kinds and all styles of people included in your wishes and actions to better the world? Please rise as you are willing and able and join in our opening hymn, number 407 in the gray hymnal. This morning, we're going to have a story of a different sort. We will be having a YouTube video, a short one, produced by Raíces, which is a group that helps immigrants out in the California area. And I think it should be ready to roll now? Okay, please enjoy.
What's an immigrant? It's good to move somewhere else. They might find the vaccine for corona.
Okay, kids, are you ready to have a conversation about immigration?
Let's do it. Migration means that you move in your country to another country, a new continent maybe. They get all their bags and move there. Like my parents. Someone goes to California, the United States.
You know anybody that immigrated?
My Nana, she immigrated from St. Kitts. My abuela and my abuelo, who also came from Colombia, and I think they got married in the United States, and then they had my dad.
Maybe
It might have a long
your ancestors.
Yeah, maybe.
Why do you think people would want to leave their home country and come to the U.S.?
Well, they would want a better life. Maybe they didn't like their place or something. Or if something bad happened in their town, like a natural disaster, they can get some fresh air. They can see cool things.
How does this make you feel and why?
For the people, I think it would be hard, especially to people who aren't being treated fairly.
Sometimes in the U.S. it just gets worse. Sometimes.
What if you were going to another country or continent because your home wasn't safe and you weren't welcomed? But that isn't fair.
Why is immigration important?
So other people from other countries can teach us new things from their country. Why? Because I think everyone should have a fair life. They might beat a world record. They might help a lot of people. They might find the vaccine for corona. They can do anything.
I feel good that they're moving somewhere that they can get more of what they need.
If we didn't have immigration, all my friends that in reality, if I haven't met any of one of them, I wouldn't have made any of my favorite friends.
Next question.
And what did you learn today?
I learned that it's happening right now. I know immigration's now. What other questions do you have?
I think I've covered it.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church and its work. Each week, we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week, the group is the Gardening Committee. People interested in finding out more can contact Lynn Cronice, and I might add that the people who help out really help to make the outside look spiffy. 1/4 of our plate collection for the Justice season will go to Justice for Migrant Families, a 501c3 nonprofit agency that promotes justice for migrant families by providing support to individuals in the federal detention facility in Batavia, information and resources to families in the community, and advocacy both within and beyond the local community. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. We have a couple of joys and sorrows. Sorrow for all the people affected by the smoke and animals along Flint Creek from the fire in Gorham. We have a joy from Jeff and Dorothy. Matt and Whitney Fine Colton welcomed a baby boy this week, Will Avery, 8 pounds and 4 ounces. And I have one of my own, and that is tomatoes. My tomatoes are coming in. Okay, and, oh dear, where was I?
Drew, I have one too.
Oh.
Whenever
Oh, please go ahead while I find my place.
Hi, folks.
Microphone.
What's that?
Microphone. So Zoom.
Microphone. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Hey, guys. I just wanted to say, as I do when I wrap up the summer, many of you know this is my last performance today here. I just wanted to say thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come. And this year has been especially fun because I've made it a point to get to talk with many of you after the service. So I get a lot of happiness just to play the piano, and I want to say, thank Bill publicly for inviting me every year. It's so nice of him to do. I enjoy coming. But it's been nice to get to know more of you because I've initiated more conversations. The other thing I just wanted to say is that I brought along an original piece of music. I would invite you to listen to it. It's maybe between 3 and 4 minutes long at the end of the service on my laptop here. And I would love to play it for you. There's a story behind it, but we don't have time for that right now, but I will fill you in on the story later. But if you would like to hear it, I would love to play it for you. So please, okay? Yeah, thanks.
I will now drop a stone for these and all the joys and sorrows left in the silence of our hearts. Whatever is in your heart today, we're with you. Please say it again with me. We are with you.
So now as we start to get ourselves into the frame of mind for the main part of the service, I have a very brief reading from A.C. Grayling, who is an author, teacher, and humanist philosopher. Humanism is the philosophy that you should be a good guest at the dinner table of life. Now is the time for centering, followed by shared silence. Of course, by shared silence, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to one another. So let us get comfortable in our seats. Maybe the children among us would like to lie down on the comfy rug. And wherever you are, let your breathing slow down. Let your eyes fall closed if you like, and take a short minute to just be. And now we're going to have a somewhat unusual presentation format because our guest speaker will be on the Zoom, and I will be prompting him with a few questions while we're talking. Do we have Aaron up and running?
Aaron is on, and it looks like he's getting set.
Okay. I'll give him just a moment here, and then I'll ask him to introduce himself and then tell us a little bit about the work that they've been doing at the detention center in Batavia, New York.
Hello, can you hear me?
Are you ready, Aaron?
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're great.
Then yeah, here for it. So folks can hear me in the room. Can folks hear me on the Zoom as well? Amazing. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. Let me turn a little bit, see if that light is better. There you go. That's what my face looks like. Yeah, good morning. My name is Aaron Krupp. I work with the organization Justice for Migrant Families based in Buffalo. And I do a lot of work supporting folks and working together with folks who have been detained by ICE, specifically folks who are being held at the Buffalo Federal Detention Facility in Batavia. And I'm grateful that y'all invited me to be here today. Forward to chatting, Dorothy. Thank you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the organization Justice for Migrant Families and what they're doing in the area?
Yeah, so I've been with the organization for about 3 years. The organization formed during the first Trump administration after a series of ICE raids on Mexican restaurants in Buffalo. So when there are ICE raids, of course, there are people who are arrested by ICE and then held in detention, many of whom end up getting deported. So a bunch of those folks need support as they're going through that process. But in many cases, those folks who are locked up by ICE are the only people in their households, in their families, or in their friend groups, or with their roommates who are earning any money. So when someone is detained by ICE, there's often a lot of community need as well, people trying to figure out where their next meals are going to come from and how they're going to pay rent at the end of the month. So the organization formed in 2016, 2017 to try to meet both of those needs, support needs of folks who are detained and support needs of families and friends who are in the community who have a lot of needs after someone is detained. And we still do both of those things. We do other things as well, but my work is primarily the support work for folks who have been detained by ICE or going through immigration proceedings.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it's actually like inside Batavia, please?
Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you, like, I go pretty much close to once a month to visit folks, and I've been inside the facility with a group of lawyers doing trainings, legal trainings for folks on the inside. So all I can share is what others have shared with me over the phone. But I guess I'll start by sharing a little bit of context around this. They call it a detention facility, but it was built in the mid 90s, following blueprints for a maximum security prison. So when you think about it, just think about whatever you're imagining in your mind's eye of a prison. It's that, right? Visitation is you sit in like a telephone booth, and the person you're visiting sits in a telephone booth, and you're separated by a pane of bulletproof glass, and you both pick up a telephone and you talk through it. Yeah, so I don't know. The facility was built in the 90s by the precursor to ICE. ICE was formed after 9/11, so whatever it was then, INS. And the land is owned by the federal government. The building is owned by the federal government. And it operates like a maximum security prison. And most of the complaints that folks have in prisons are echoed by folks in ICE, with the big exception being that this is designed to be a temporary facility, right? People aren't serving a set sentence, so people have no idea how long they're going to be in there. And sometimes if folks appeal and appeal again and exhaust all of their legal possibilities, folks are locked up in there for many years. But without classes and without daily activities that do exist inside of prisons, the most common complaints inside are, that I hear at least, are excessive use of solitary confinement, because, right, New York a few years ago passed the HALT legislation that limits use, that I think accurately recognizes that solitary confinement is a form of torture, and limits solitary confinement to 2 weeks. And because this is a federal facility, one of only a handful of federal facilities in New York, they don't have to follow New York state law. So they regularly use durations of solitary confinement measured in months instead of days. And people complain about the food, of course. Um, and people are, I mean, again, it's a prison. People are double bunked in cells and locked into their cells 18, 19 hours a day. And one of the only ways to get out of your cell for more than a handful of hours each day is to participate in the voluntary work program where folks work maintaining the prison facility, cleaning and painting and doing food service. And that work program, which ranges anywhere from 4 to 10 hours of work a day, pays $1 a day. So that's, I don't know, those are the conditions. And this is like a complete bipartisan agreement. Those were the conditions before Trump came into office, even though the rhetoric of the administration was fairly pro-immigrant. And they continue to be the conditions now that Trump is in office, and the rhetoric is decidedly anti-immigrant. Although the facility is now even more crowded and there's folks sleeping on the floor.
Can you tell us a little bit about how many people are actually inside the facility currently, and what that relates to the theoretical capacity of the center?
Yeah, so the facility has been, the bed capacity. So again, I guess backing up for context, Batavia is the only ICE-owned facility in the state of New York. ICE will also contract with with county and municipal facilities. They'll lock people up in county jails, and they will pay for it. But Batavia is the only exclusive prison for immigrants in the state of New York. About 3/4 of all the folks who are locked up for immigration stuff in the state are locked in Batavia, and the facility has a bed capacity of 650. For the last 3 months, the detained population in the center has not been below 700. So there's consistently been at least 50 people inside who don't have assigned bunks and are either sleeping on the floor between bunks, or I heard a few weeks ago that they had laid out mattresses on the floor of the gymnasium and they had about 80 people sleeping in there. And it's fluctuated quite a bit, from close to 700 to close to 800. So up to 150 people locked up in there without beds.
It used to be that there were women in that facility as well as men, but is it all men at this point?
Yeah, so during kind of peak COVID, they shut down the women's wing and they turned it into an all men's facility. But as is the case with all prison, the government institution that is choosing to incarcerate a person gets to decide what the person's gender is. So together with it being all men, there are also a handful, pretty consistently, a handful of trans women locked up in there as well.
In regards to detention, I know that you do a lot of work with the affected families of the persons who are detained. Can you tell us a little bit about what kinds of scenarios you've encountered with people who have had a loved one taken into detention?
Yes, I mean people end up locked up in Batavia in all sorts of different ways. Like the rhetoric today is like all immigrants are criminals. And the majority of people locked up in Batavia have no criminal history other than whatever immigration thing they're being held for, which means, of course, that everyone in that facility is being held because ICE is choosing to hold them. No one is being held there because a judge ordered them held. That's the difference between this facility and prison. And people get scooped up in any number of different ways. A handful of people get picked up as they're completing a prison sentence. And the prison or the jail turns them over to ICE. But most people who are in there now have gotten picked up in an ICE raid. So that's ICE raiding a workplace. For example, they see a house that has a crew of brown-skinned folks working, doing like roofing asphalt shingle, and they turn into the driveway and they ask to see everyone's papers and detain a bunch of people, or they go into a restaurant and they do the same thing. Um, or it's folks who have tried. The numbers of people who are fleeing to Canada because of the immigration rhetoric are really high right now. And they're either Border Patrol will pick people up on the way into Canada in the North Country or near the bridges in Buffalo, um, or Niagara, or folks will get into Canada. They'll have a run-in with Canadian immigration officials. They'll say they came from the US, and Canadian immigration officials will turn them back over to the US. So lots of different pathways for folks to end up in there. But in almost all cases, as you were saying, Dorothy, like folks have families and loved ones and roommates, and usually, almost always, because so much of this immigration detention stuff happens in the context of work, either in a workplace or people on their way to work or on their way out of work. In many cases, the folks who are detained are the only folks in their household or one of a small number of people in their household who are working. Um, so I don't know. I'll share an example. Without going too much into specifics, we get calls from family members of folks who are detained pretty much every week, who are both like processing the pretty unimaginable grief and confusion of having a loved one locked up and in legal proceedings that will very likely end up to that person's deportation. Um, and often, because this is a men's facility, we often get calls, and they tend to target people of a particular age demographic, a lot of men in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. We get a lot of calls from spouses with young children, being like, the father of my child was just taken, and now I need to figure out, like, if they get deported to Colombia, if they get deported to Venezuela, if they get deported to Mauritania, if they get deported to Afghanistan, like, are we going to go back so our family can be together despite the danger that that might mean for our entire family and for my newborn kids? Am I going to pull my kids away from their school and their friends and their entire lives here so they can be together with their dad? Um, and on top of those, like, heart-rending decisions that people have to make, often the person who's detained is the only person making money. And a lot of folks are fairly recently arrived and still trying to establish themselves and are like living paycheck to paycheck. Um, yeah, so I like I've been chatting with someone whose brother-in-law was detained several months ago, and to get him out, there was a bail posted for him. That's a thing. Um, so it was for $10,000, which she had to pay. So she emptied her savings account. She took $3,000 out of her savings account. She sold her car for $5,000, and she took out $2,000 in debt. She got her brother-in-law out, and then 2 days later, her husband was picked up and deported. So now she's $2,000 in debt. Her husband was the only person in their household working. And just last week, she sent me the message from her landlord with the formal eviction notice because she's a month and a half behind on rent. Because where's rent money going to come from? So these are just like these are the financial realities that a deportation puts people in, or even an arrest puts people in.
So Justice for Migrant Families has a variety of different kinds of assistance that you're providing both to people in detention and to the families. Could you just start with a few of the things that you're doing for families like you just described?
Yes, I mean, like the organization formed out of a desire to be in solidarity and a recognition that like we are, I am for better or worse, I am a person of the United States, and it is my government that is doing this to people. And we feel like, yeah, we're trying to do what we can in solidarity with the people who are being targeted with violence by our government. And the things that we choose to do are motivated by the things that are asked of us by folks who are detained or their family members. So we've over years, we've built up programs because we get a lot of repeat requests. So in terms of forms of support for folks who are detained, who are inside, because people like often lose a lot of weight when they first get detained because the food portions are so small. A lot of people ask us to deposit money on their commissary account. That's like the prison store, so people can buy snacks to supplement their diets. and can make phone calls because every phone call costs money, every video call costs money. So we have a program where we donate, like we put money on people's accounts. We also have programs where we connect people on the inside with pen pals because sometimes it can be a real long haul and we send people books. We also have programs where we connect people to attorneys and where we connect people, if people are granted bail, we connect people to community bail funds. For folks on the outside, it's a lot more diverse because what we can do is a lot more diverse, but often in the situation where people, especially households with children, are struggling to find food, we connect people to food resources around the community, food banks and food pantries, but also we do grocery drop-offs. But the thing that we do most often, because it seems to give people the most like dignified access to food, is we try to keep a stock of grocery cards to Wegmans or Tops or whatever. So people, we can just go to someone's house and be like, here you go. This has $100 on it. You can only use it at Tops, but there's Tops all over Buffalo. Um, there you go. There's $100 for groceries. Hope that'll get you through the next week or two. And we stay in touch with folks. And occasionally we can help people with rent money. And often we're not lawyers and we cannot give legal advice or support, but we are sometimes able to sit with people as they go through their own legal applications and do some translation and interpretation of what things on a legal form mean. Yeah, and sometimes we do a lot of emotional support. I was with someone the other day whose partner was in Erie County jail, like jail in downtown Buffalo, and she was supposed to get out, and a judge ordered all of her charges dropped. And in any case of a citizen, this person would have walked out of the jail. And in her case, ICE called the jail, said, hey, can you hold her for an extra 2 hours? We're on our way. We want to lock her up. And the jail respected ICE's request, held her for an extra 2 hours, and we never even saw her. They took her out of the basement. And now she's locked up by ICE. And we were with her partner, and it was a rough day. So we do things like that too.
So I know that there are ways that people who live far from Buffalo can help. Like, for instance, I have a regular contribution that comes out of my bank account every month to support Justice for Migrant Families as a recurring donation. I guess from what you're saying, that, for instance, we could organize a drive to get a stock of Tops grocery cards. We've also, I think, in the past done things like having an event to create greeting cards that you can use to include when you're communicating with people inside. Even if people don't want to be a pen pal, they can still make a card that might brighten somebody's day. What are the other things that are kind of useful things for people who don't live in the Buffalo area to participate?
Yeah, I mean, like, we do this work in Buffalo because we're in Buffalo, but there are undocumented people who are being targeted everywhere. And a lot of the targeting, so like, I guess I can say two things. It strikes me that there are two answers to this question. There's the class of answers that are, how can y'all support the work that we're already doing, which is mostly in the Buffalo, Western New York area, with a focus on Batavia. And then there's the question of like, I'm living where I'm living. What can I do in the place where I am? And I think those questions are quite different. So to the first one, as you said, we always need more grocery cards. We are always happy to receive donations, absolutely. And there are ways to earmark your donations for particular forms of support. So yeah, I don't know if y'all wanted to do a fundraising drive where you, I don't know, however you wanted to do it, that would be great. And then there are ways to volunteer with our programs, like being a pen pal for someone in detention or being part of the list of people who mail books from time to time to someone who's detained. All of those are options. And in terms of doing work in your own community, like all work stems from relationship. And there are some of the folks who are being targeted who have the least support are folks who are in rural areas picking fruits and vegetables or working on the dairies. And I don't know exactly what the scene is where y'all are at. But I wonder what some of the folks nearby, how they would like to be supported in this time.
Right, well, we are in the area where it's highly rural with many dairy farms and quite a few crop farms as well that are now going into their fall harvests. So there are workers of a variety of different legal statuses in the area. Formally, we haven't tried to directly connect with the affected persons because we don't really have a good organizational administration for doing that kind of work. So we usually have worked with other organizations like the Rochester Rapid Response Network or with the Worker Justice Center or others who already have expertise in this area and have groups on the ground. I know that Finger Lakes Rapid Response Network would like to extend more into the Canandaigua, Ontario County area. They're mostly focused in Penn Yan and Geneva at the moment. At any rate, I'm sure there are ways that we can reach out and try to network with the local Friends community, some of the other local congregations that might be interested in networking. So I guess that's on us to figure out what the best connections are and how to go about it. So because we're running along, I think we're not going to have a question and answer session right now. I would like to thank Aaron very much for his participation today. And we will carry on with closing up our service here. So Aaron, thanks very much. I appreciate your help today.
Yeah, thank you all for having me, and I'll stick around. And if folks who are on the Zoom want to have questions or comments or anything in the chat, happy to respond in the chat. And if folks are in person, Dorothy, be free to share out my contact information. Thank you all.
Thanks. I'll be happy to take questions and write them up to send to Aaron if you have things you'd like to follow up on. In closing, here's a reading from the words of hymn number 325, Love Makes a Bridge, by Brian Wren. Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and hand to hand. Love finds a way when laws are blind and freedom banned. Love breaks the walls of language, gender, class, and age. Love gives us wings to slip the bars of every cage. Love lifts the hopes that force and fear have beaten down. Love breaks the chains and gives us strength to stand our ground. And now please rise in spirit or in body and join us in our closing hymn, number 159 in the gray hymnal.
Please join with me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.